I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, December the 23rd, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin does what it's supposed to do. For you, for your cattle, most importantly for your bottom line, it is a trusted alternative to Draxxin. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri, they're on Christmas break right now. They're not going to slow down very long, but Jackie and Bailey and Skylar are going to take a little break there and not hit it quite so hard there for maybe a couple of days over the holidays. But then they're coming right back, having a big sale on Monday, December the 30th. I mean, a big one. I got a lot of yearlings consigned, likely have 100 loads of yearlings. Be about the only big sale going. There's a few other places that are going to have a sale starting that Monday the 30th, but most of them are still going to be closed till after the first of the year. So if you want to get some cattle and get them paid for before the end of the year, that'll be your last opportunity to do it. Then they're not going to be having a weigh-up cow sale on New Year's Day, but then they're coming right back with a value-added special, feeder special, on Thursday, January the 2nd. So Joplin Regional Stockyards wants to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, but just like always, they're not messing around, guys. They're going to get right back to work. But here comes Santa Claus. It's a great time of the year to take a break, maybe look back and show some appreciation for some things that have been going right. We've got to give thanks for this market. It's gotten higher than anybody dreamed it would. These calves are selling just unbelievably well, and so we're lucky for that. We're lucky that Trump got back in office. We've got some conservatism and some conservative values leading this country again, because so many of us wear conservatism right on our sleeve there. But it's just a good time here. Everybody's moods are very optimistic and have been here for quite some time. But it's a good time to take a break, spend with your family. I've been extremely blessed this year. I've had my daughters do so well, and I tell you what, that nothing that I've ever done or ever achieved, which hadn't been all that much, I guess, but been okay. But nothing I've ever done pleases me as much as watching my kids do well. And I know you guys feel the same way, those of you that have kids. But gosh, my youngest daughter was lucky enough to be rodeo queen there at the PRCA Rodeo in Amarillo, Texas. And she's just started college and getting started good into that. Got her first semester over. My middle daughter graduated from Texas Tech Nursing School and got the job that she always wanted to be, a labor delivery nurse at BSA in Amarillo, Texas. So we're extremely blessed for that. And then my oldest daughter, she started her career in healthcare marketing and has only been doing it a few months and has already taken the director's place, the person that trained her to do her job. She's already taken her position, and then over the weekend got engaged to be married to a good guy that we all like. So I mean, I'm just so pleased with the way those kids have performed. I've tried to do everything I could for them, but I kind of felt guilty. I didn't have a ranch for them to go to. Of course, my dad didn't have a ranch to give me either, and his dad didn't have one to give him, but we've all tried to do what we could to stay in the career that we wanted in the industry that we love. And I've tried to make my mark in this cattle industry, and I'm proud to be here. Going to be taking some time off over the holidays here, spend some time, Christmas time, with family and friends, and got one sale I'm going to be doing over the holiday break there in Columbus, Texas. I'm going to be down there at Columbus, Texas, at the sale barn there. I have a big replacement special. They always have a bunch of those F1 Brayfords in there. I have a lot of nice bred heifers and bred cows and even pairs too. So if you guys are interested in something like that, get on to DVAuction.com. That's on Sunday, December the 29th, starting at noontime local there. So Hope you guys get on there, or if you're in the area, come by and say hi. But we had just a record-breaking boom at the last part of the year. The last sales of the year are the highest ever. And I'm going to tell you about several of them. I was in Fallon, Nevada on Friday at Nevada Livestock Marketing for their monthly special. Sold the highest cattle that I had ever sold, auctioneering. Of course, it was higher than anybody else had ever sold them before too. So it's just, you know, that you say, everybody says, oh, I've never seen it so high. Nobody's seen it this high. We're at all-time record prices on these calves, a lot of your feeders. We haven't got fats back up there yet, but they're working on it. And these replacements are selling really well, but I've seen them higher before. And like I mentioned on the last report, your replacements are always the last one to see the big boost in the market, and then they're the last ones to drop off when the market goes back down. But they still have not gotten to record levels yet, although selling very impressively. But on Friday, we had a cattle on feed report, and a lot of people were focusing on that, looking at it. It was going to be the first one to show fewer cattle on feed than the previous year for the first time in a long time. It indeed did that. And then we felt like, or I felt like, and a lot of other people felt like, that the placements that they had those too high. What the average of the analyst guess was, we thought that was too high for what it should have been, being that was in November, and our receipts were extremely light in November, if you remember that, especially up through the middle part of the country, which is significant because that's where most of our feed yards are at. It was so wet that nobody could get their cattle out to take them to the sale. And our auction receipts were sharply lighter than a year ago. Feeder weight auction receipts were 14% lighter. And so, you know, I felt pretty strongly that our placements were going to be much lighter than what the analysts had predicted. But no, evidently the USDA's model is set up just about like them, because it came in actually a little bit heavier than what they thought. And I'm calling bullshit to it. I think it's absolutely wrong. We've got extremely lighter numbers of calves out there. Our calf crop is the smallest in 73 years. We've got ample amounts of winter forage out there. People are putting cattle that normally would go into the feed yard, they're turning them out on wheat and ryegrass, and out west they're turning them out on grass in California and places like that. I absolutely disagree with the placement numbers, but of course National Agriculture Statistics, the USDA put them out, and they're official. That don't mean they're right. I worked for USDA a long time, and I know the difference between official and right. We may never know what's right, but they'll come in sometime later and do an adjustment and try to figure that, if they know, if they have any way of knowing what they are. But I still feel like it wasn't right. Marketing's come in a bit heavier than what they thought, but your on-feed inventory percentages compared to the same report a year ago. For December 1, inventories on feed come in at 99.7. That was just a touch lighter than the 99.9 that the industry analysts had predicted. Our placements in November came in at 96.3% of a year ago. And that's what I can't believe, because our feeder receipts on feeder weights were 14% lower. We had light runs everywhere. Nobody was moving any cattle on a direct basis either, because it was too muddy around. You know, it just wasn't a lot going on in November, if you remember back. And there's no way that they had 96.3% of the same time a year ago cattle placed on feed. There's absolutely no way. And that 96.3 was a few tenths of a percentage point higher than the 95.9 that the industry analysts had predicted. Marketing's come in a little bit heavier at 98.5% of a year ago compared to the 98.2, but still the report as a whole is neutral to leaning bullish a little bit. I think we could still carry on here, and everybody that I sent that report to, or they sent it back and forth to me, we all had the roll in their eyes emoji going, and everybody was just like, yeah, whatever they're going to put out. So it was just a little bit frustrating on that. But I've got a lot of quotes to give you. You might want to make note of some of these for year-end markets. But before I do that, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, heavy on the Christ in the Christmas, and a Happy New Year. We'll not be giving you another feeder flash this week. Next time I give you a feeder flash is when I've got something to talk about. Likely after that Joplin big sale that they're going to have on the 30th. But I won't have another one this week. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas from everybody at DV Auction. There's a lot of us out there. We have a lot of reps that don't get much credit, but they're out there putting sales on top of our 110 auctions, regular commercial auctions that we broadcast every week, and some of them have several sales a week. On top of them, we do about 1,500 production sales a year. We got people running around videoing cattle and setting up those production sales on site. And all of them want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Everybody at the NationalBeefWire, that's our website that has all this information on it. And if you're not looking at it for your market, you're really missing out. We've got a free electronic newsletter that we put out. You can subscribe to that and get that. It includes the feeder flash video every business day. And I don't do this by myself. I'm the only one you see, but there's a lot of people in the back. The feeder flash, everybody here at the feeder flash, mainly me, but I've got guys that help me put this stuff together, and then they put the NationalBeefWire out. We've got girls in the office in Norfolk, Nebraska. We've got guys, computer tech guys in Lincoln, Nebraska, at the office there, and we just wish you all a very Merry Christmas from all of us here at DV Auction. But let's talk about your board for last week. December live cattle futures. Monday was down $1.62. Tuesday was up 22 cents. Wednesday was down 95. Thursday down another 95. And Friday up 97 cents. But December live cattle futures ended the week at 190.132. That was down 333 for the week, when our cash markets were higher again. So maybe they'll just change these CME cattle futures and start calling them widgets, and they can just trade off from whatever they want to. But you know, it's frustrating when we're seeing the real, the reality of the cattle markets and supply and demand doing one thing, and then people out there with the board doing another. But February live cattle futures ended the week at 188.40. Down 362 for the week. And that's another frustrating thing when you see everybody in all the auctions across the country are buying feeder cattle that conservatively are going to wash at about $2 a pound, and that 190, 132 that we're working with on a spot contract right now is the highest futures that we have. So it's dang hard to protect yourself when we've got an industry that's just lugging down on the board all the time. You can't protect yourself at all, even though feed is cheap in a lot of places. But that 190, 132 is the best we have. It's better than our April, which is just over 190. And people, they're leaving $10 of their ass stuck out, not covered, because we don't have anything to cover it, because the board's lagging behind so much. But look at your feeder cattle futures. Monday was down 210 for January contract. Tuesday was up 192. Wednesday was down 47. Thursday down 252. Friday up $1.12. January feeder cattle ended the week at 255.60, and that is about $7 or $8 behind your index levels. And it was down 205 for the week when all of our auction sales were higher. Very frustrating. March feeder cattle ended the week at 255.82, down $1.85 for the week. And I've told you guys many times The only long, and that's the way CME has made this. It's just made for the shorts. So they need to offer something to the longs. Need to give us. They need to let you demand delivery on the live cattle futures for the longs, and they just it's set up for the shorts, so it's always pulling down on the short side. The entire industry pulls on it, and the only persons on the long side are these managed fund managers. You talk about your funds. Well, they're only looking for opportunities to dominate the market and the small pool of traders that have open interest in there. They want to dominate that, and they want to run it one way or then the other. Well, they cannot wait to take this cattle futures. The hell of it is, supply and demand in the reality of your cash markets are not ready for that to happen yet. So they're getting frustrated with that. They're ready to ride this thing down, but it's not going to happen. We haven't kept any heifers back, and even though we're starting to see that now, it's going to be 2 years before that happens. We're going to have a smaller calf crop next year than we had this year, and this year's was the smallest in 73 years. It's not time, guys. You might as well just stay hooked on the long side. But you look at your grains. March corn, 446 1/4. That was up 4 1/4 cents a bushel. January beans, 974 1/2, down 13 3/4 cents for the week. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March ended the week at 544 3/4, down 12 1/4 cents a bushel for the week. Your fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week, we had moved 33,500 head. That's very light. We moved a few more on Friday, but buying for 2 holiday weeks in a row, maybe all we did. But live prices of fat steers and heifers on a negotiated basis in the 5 area feeding region, from 191 to 196. That was steady to $3 higher. Weighted average on live steers, 194.93. That's not a record, but we're getting up there close. That was up 62 cents compared to the previous week's weighted average. Your dress prices ranged from 302 to 315, steady to $3 higher. Weighted average on dress steers, 305.67, up 227 compared to the previous week. As a whole, your Northern Plains was just steady to firm, even though the weighted average was higher, 194 to 196 in the north. Of course, in the south, no leverage, no trade. They traded most of the cattle at 191. Did have some 192 in Texas achieved through some competition on the Fed Cattle Exchange, but that is the only competition and only leverage. We see it all in the Southern Plains. Is what sells on Central Stockyards Fed Cattle Exchange online marketing console there. But it's just getting ridiculous in Texas. But on a dress basis in the north, 305 to 307. There was some of that up to 310, 312, 315, but that was steady to $5 higher on dress basis. But on Friday, Iowa sold 1,700, just over 20,000 for the week in Iowa. And I tell you, Iowa continues to sell a larger percentage of their total sales in a negotiated manner because it gives them all that leverage. And whenever the market justifies a higher price, they get it. They absolutely get it. 195 is what they sold them for on Friday. Nebraska sold 1,000 on Friday, 12,400 for the week. Live price 195 in Nebraska on Friday and 305 dressed. Kansas sold only 300 head. Didn't even sell 3,000 in Kansas last week. Negotiated price was all 191. Texas sold a whopping 400 and a whopping 900 fed cattle sales negotiated cash in your Texas feedlot areas. They sold mostly 191 or all 191 on a direct basis. You can't tell me those guys aren't getting something to flavor up the pot a little bit. Why would they sell them for 191 when they know that their neighbor feedlot is going to sell theirs mostly $3 over the 191 once they establish the 191? It'd be crazy to do it. So there's something going on there. I know we're supposed to have audit review and compliance on their mandatory price reporting, but they wouldn't know a trade if it ran up their pants leg and bit them on the ass. So I don't think anybody's looking into that, but it's there's some crooked stuff going on there. Why would we be reporting a 191 market when nobody's going to sell their cattle for that? Yet it gets reported and we're told it's real. We did see some 192 through Fed Cattle Exchange, like I said. Box beef cutout values were higher. Your weighted average on all of last week's choice cuts sales were up 313 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Weighted average last week was 316.88. Your late Friday sales were about $1 lower than that on Friday afternoon. Weighted average on all your select sales last week, 286.73. That was 644 higher than the previous week's select weighted average. And your late Friday sales on select were about 80 cents below that weighted average. Choice select spread on the weighted average was just over $30. All that based on 541 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. There's going to be lots of interruptions in our slaughter here the next couple of weeks. People that work in them plants, they want to spend time with their families too during the holidays. So we finished up this past week a decent on our slaughter. Estimated cattle slaughter last week, 617,000. That was 8,000 more than the previous week and just 4,000 less than the same week a year ago with much heavier carcasses. Talk about what else is going on. Our friends at Fairpeace, Dr. Rodrigo and all of his staff there, we've been involved with Fairpeace for a long time. One of the main places that they started advertising, and we could not be more proud to be involved with such a company that's product has really taken this industry by storm. And I'm so happy when in my travels and wherever I'm going, I see people all the time that thank me for turning them on to Fairpeace. They say that product has saved me so much work, so much sickness, so much death loss of my cattle, and it's saved me a ton of money. And I just want to thank you for in introducing me to that product. But we're glad to have Fairpeace here. We're going to keep talking about them as we go forward. And everybody at Fairpeace wants to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year too. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in at the end of the week, after all your sales, even Saturday, sitting at 263.72. That was up 164 from the end of the previous week. So we saw gains again, even on feeder weights. But I've been telling you, the bottom end of those feeder weights that go into the index, the 7 weights, a high percentage of them are going to be turned out as stalkers. That's your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 262.15. I don't talk about it very often, but look at this national steer tracker number on there. That's the last 25 lots of cattle that sold within that index weight range of 5 head or more that were significant. That national steer tracker, the latest sales within the index weights was sitting at 270.07. Wow. Your cash feeders and your sale barns sold steady to $4 higher last week. And it was some unevenness in there, but late in the week it was sure strong. Calves, another 10 to 20 higher, and you're saying, how could they be that way again? They just were. And look at some of these prices I'm going to give you. I told you I was out in Fallon, Nevada at Nevada Livestock Marketing. Look at their report there that they put together to kind of tell you what the market is. They sold 4,100, or we sold 4,150 head for 150 consigners in northern Nevada, guys. Just look at the steer calves. Those 3-weight steer calves had an average price on all of them, and there was some plainer ones and some that weren't perfect, and it includes all these. The average price on all the 3-weight steer calves was $419, and your high price was $488. $488. That's getting awful close to $5 a pound. 4-weight steer calves, the average price on all of them was $397, and your high was $483. And on 5 weights, the average price on all your 5-weight steers was $341, with a high of 386. And I'm going to brag on myself, not that I can sell any better than anybody else out there, but I was auctioneering when we had the top quote come out of Nevada livestock marketing on Friday. Sold 72 steer calves. They weighed 532. 532. That's deep in the fives, guys, for $385.50. Now that's a record, at least regionally, if not all over the whole globe there. But those calves were headed to California to be turned out on grass. But very impressive market there, and I enjoy going out and doing that as often as I can. How about some other individual quotes? Verdigris Stockyards in Nebraska sells 74 steers at 684 that bring 308.50. That's very impressive quote there. How about the guys that pays at public auction yards in Billings, Montana? They had a replacement special on Friday. They sold bred heifers weighing mostly 1,000 to 1,100 pounds from 2,700 all the way up to 3,450. Now that's as high as I've seen around this time. Now I've heard of them higher years back, but that's as high as I've heard of them this time around. They did have some young bred cows that they sold with a not a reasonable top, but the high on a few head was 36.50. But still, even if they're in Pays in Billings, Montana, most of the bred cows, and there'd be some really nice high quality ones in there, 3,000 or just a little better than that stop, most of them. So you know, as a percentage of what your feeder cattle are bringing, you know, they still don't look very high to me. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Erickson Spalding Livestock Market in Erickson, Nebraska. It was the Palmer and Johansson steers, 108 head of them, weighed 623 and bring 360. Put a pencil into those guys. Merry Christmas.